This is Professor Henry Bwisa, your tutor on research techniques. Last time we talked about the research problem or problem of the statement, and we covered part 1. Now we want to cover part 2 of the same. In this part 2, I will now wish to carry you through the practical steps of writing the problem statement. It's a statement, it's a problem. That is the bottom line. Do not do research simply to satisfy your degree requirements. Many of us are tempted to do so. Your research can be your springboard to your consultant career, to your future career. Indeed, it all depends on the topic that you select for your research. Abraham Maslow, the father of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, said, "That which is not worth doing is not worth doing well." Simple curiosity is not good enough for you to do research. Research for the sake of research is not profitable. The fact that nothing has been done on anything should not simply motivate you to do the research. Look at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We are taught and we are told that when one need is fulfilled, it creates new needs and therefore new research. So look around and see. Last time we talked about SMEs. Maybe you addressed training, and when the issue of training was solved, probably market cropped up. So research can be generated out of those Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, according to Merriam, a researcher, says there are 3 basic types of research problems. First, there's the conceptual problem. 2 incongruent elements that are inconsistent. This is the way it should be, but yet this is the way it is. When you are supposed to go right, yet you're going left, you may not arrive at the destination. That's what we call the incongruence. For example, more training should lead to better employee performance, but the contrary is happening. We are training and yet performance is not improving. Now that is a conceptual problem. We need to find out, are we not training right? Or are we not training the right people? So that's the first. The second is value problem. A value problem arises when there is a conflict about what people consider ethical, moral, worthwhile, or even desirable. For example, employees believe their dress is a matter of freedom of choice, but companies require a dress code. That is a dilemma we need to investigate. And lastly, there is what we call action problem. This is a conflict that offers no clear alternative course of action, an undesirable outcome due to apparent lack of choices. For example, fire engines staff are required to reach the sites of disaster, but they are not always able to do so. We find it quite a lot in urban areas. There is fire engines want to reach there, they cannot reach there. What's the problem? Those are the 3 basic categories of problems. Now, Albert Einstein said, quotations that are extremely useful. 1, What is missing in society? That's a problem. That's a question that you ask that can lead to a research and a research problem. What historical event is in need of re-examination? Take Kenya, for example. We have political problems, and we tie them to the land problem. What are the historical issues on land that should be solved if our politics has to move on? What program is in need of study or evaluation? Now we have things like business incubation. Can we evaluate it? Can we study it? What program needs to be developed? Can we develop new programs? Look at what we're doing now. You are reading me, you are hearing me through TV. This was not there before. The authors of this program must have thought, how can we reach people even more effectively? And they did research, and they came up with this that you are enjoying as you listen to us. What group is being underserved? Look at the Kenyan politics, for example. We believe women are not being served well in parliament. What's the problem? That's a research problem, a research question. What health or social problem exists? These are some of the questions that will lead to a problem. Now, not every question is good for research. For example, on my left on the screen, you will see what I'm calling bad research questions. They are not empirically testable. You cannot gather data to test them. They are not scientific. For example, if you say, should abortion be legal? That's a question but not very good for research. Is it right to have capital punishment? That can be a political debate, but not a good research question. We have also general topics that are not research questions, like treatment of alcohol and drug abuse. That sounds like a title of a book and not a research question. Sexuality and aging. There isn't a lot of research question in that statement. You can also have a set of variables that are not questions. For example, capital punishment and racial discrimination. So what about it? That's not a very good research question. Urban decay and gangs. Good question, good statement, but not very good for research. You can also have too vague or ambiguous, like, do police affect delinquents? Good question, but doing research on it, tricky. What can be done to prevent child abuse? Good question again, but not framed well enough for research. On the right, you can now have a few questions that we may call good questions for research. For example, exploratory questions. Has the incidence of new forms of child abuse appeared in Winston in the past 10 years? Don't mind the foreign language or foreign name. You can replace it with Kenya, Nairobi if you want. Descriptive questions. Is child abuse, violent or sexual, more common in families that have experienced a divorce than in intact, never divorced families? Now, that's a good question, because you're going to compare families. Where is the problem more prone? And therefore, even when you come up with solutions, you address a certain target. Are the children raised in impoverished households more likely to have medical, learning, and socio-emotional adjustment difficulties than children are not living in poverty? This is a comparative study. You want to compare where the problem is best placed. Let us look at a possible template for you to initially draft your problem statement. Look at that template. I have words with dashes. If you can fill those dashes, then you will be actually on your way to writing the problem. Remember, you are answering 5 questions. What is wrong? Where is it happening? When did it occur? What's the extent, the magnitude? And so on and so forth. So let's look at the template. There is a problem in dash, dash, dash. You need to state the place, the organization where this problem is. Despite dash, 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 what has been put in place? Like, despite training, despite regulations, despite funding, this problem is persistent. Despite ABCD, the problem of mortality rate is still occurring. So you state what is happening despite the intervention. This problem has negatively impacted on who? If you are saying it's a problem, whom has he affected? How has he affected that organization or person? It is when you bring out the target group, the magnitude, and the focus of the problem that will make it juicy, that will make it even funded, because it has an impact on the audience that you want to bring. Look, I'm now carrying you through a possible statement of the problem. There is a problem in Kenya's public universities. Despite elaborate staff motivational packages and the security of tenure, very high turnover as captured by universities, reports is occurring. This problem has negatively impacted the quality of education because the remaining staff are overloaded. A possible cause of this problem is the leadership style by public university leaders who are not necessarily administrative professionals. Perhaps a study which investigates strategies to inculcate administrative principles into non-administrative personnel by the grounded theory approach could remedy the situation. Notice that this problem statement is about 87 words. Like I said, a problem statement doesn't need to be pages and pages. Now, here are your problem statement steps, the guiding steps to write your problem statement. The first one, describe the ideal situation. 2, explain the problem. 3, explain the costs. 4, back up your assertions. Give evidence. 5, propose the solution. And lastly, explain the benefits. We now want to look at these 6 steps as we continue with our statement of the problem. The first one, let's describe the ideal. Having selected a topic or a title, and you can, that site www.mukmik.co.ke has some guidelines on selecting a topic or a title. So, having selected your topic or your title, describe how things should work. Explain in a few sentences how things would be if the problem didn't exist. For instance, let's say that we have noticed that employees at many organizations are not fully engaged. In this case, we might begin our problem statement by describing the ideal situation for employee engagement. So your possible paragraph 1 could be the ideal situation where employee engagement is efficient and effective. Like, every organization is expected to have a workplace approach resulting in the right conditions for all members of an organization to give of their best each day, committed to their organization's goals and values, motivated to contribute to organization success, and with an enhanced sense of their own well-being. That is how the situation should be. Step 1. Step 2, you now explain the problem. It is said that a problem well stated is a problem half solved. Or identifying a problem is halfway solving it. Therefore, very succinctly summarize the problem you intend to solve. Having stated an ideal state in step 1, you may explain the problem by starting with the word however or unfortunately to show that the identified problem is what is preventing the situation that you want to look at. For example, following up step 1, you will say, unfortunately, evidence shows that the relationship between management policy and employee engagement does not support employee engagement. This is despite the fact that some of the organizations have adopted the highly recommended performance management systems. It is not clear how the said performance management strategies affect the tendency of employees to fully engage themselves in the workplace. That forms a possible paragraph 2 of the problem that we are tackling. In step 3, try to explain the costs. Explain your problem's costs, whether financial or other. Soon after you state your problem, you will want to explain why it's a big deal. After all, no one has time or resources to try to solve every single minor problem. So, you must be clear. And the possible paragraph 3 therefore would be, for our employees' engagement example, we might proceed to explain the problem caused like this. Lack of employee engagement represents a significant productivity burden for any organization. Poor productivity has reduced the competitiveness of some companies to the extent that some are threatened with closure, which in turn can lead to national unemployment. That's the cost of that problem if it is not tackled. Step 4, can you back up your statements? No matter how much burden you claim your problem is costing, if you can't back up your claims with reasonable evidence, you may not be taken seriously. As soon as you start making specific claims about how serious your problem is, you will need to start supporting your statement with evidence. In some cases, this may be from your own research or from data from related study or project or even from reputable third parties. And then step 5, you propose the solution. When you have explained what the problem is and why it is so important, explain how you propose to deal with it. So your post paragraph 4 could be, again, based on our employee engagement example, our solution to the problem of poor employee engagement may be thought to be increased use of performance management strategies in the workplace. Here, performance management is the independent variable and employee engagement will be the dependent variable. We shall be talking about variables in subsequent lectures. And finally, number 6, explain the benefits. Now that you have told your readers what should be done about the problem, it's a very good idea to explain why this solution is a good idea. Explain the tangible or even the non-tangible benefits. So a possible paragraph will be, we may write that improved employee engagement will enhance productivity. Improved productivity will enhance competitiveness of companies and by extension, business continuity and employment creation. Conclude by reiterating the need. For example, we may write, this study will engage a quasi-experimental research design to measure the effect of performance management systems on the element on employee management with the aim of recommending their advantages. This is a possible sample statement of the problem with the title, The Effects of Employee Engagement on Performance Management in Kenya. Organizations are expected to have a workplace approach with the right conditions for all staff to give of their best. Unfortunately, despite the fact that some Kenyan parastatals have adopted a highly recommended performance management system, evidence which you should shows that the relationship between management policy and employee engagement at many parastatals does not support employee engagement. It is not clear how the said performance management strategies affect the tendency of employees to fully engage themselves in the workplace. We are saying we do not know, it's not clear. Lack of employee engagement represents a significant productivity burden at the cost at a number of Kenya parastatals, with the labor productivity being registered very low. Then quote, poor productivity has reduced the competitiveness of parastatals to the extent that some are threatened with the ultimate cost of closure, again you can quote, which in turn can lead to national unemployment. Increased use of performance management strategies in the workplace could be a possible remedy for low employee engagement. We hypothesize that improved employee engagement will enhance productivity. Improved productivity will enhance competitiveness of parastatals and, by extension, business continuity and employment creation. This study will engage a quasi-experimental research design to measure the effect of performance and management systems on employee engagement with the aim of recommending their wide adoption. Notice, just 197 words. A statement of the problem that is more than 200 words may be too wordy. I again thank you for watching and listening. In part 1 of this talk, which we covered earlier, we looked at the principles and the concepts, and now we have actually gone through the practical and even given possible problem statements. I want to thank you and say, watch this space. More tips on research, methodologies are forthcoming.